So we've got two more community board reports to go. I propose to do both of those and then take a break. So the Waitai Coastal-Burwood Community Board report to Council. Kelly Barber, Chair of the Board, thank you for joining us. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Some assistance with the technology would be much appreciated. Thank you. I'm glad you've shown that photo. It's probably one of the only photos in existence where I'm the tallest of the group.
You are. Point of order.
Oh, I don't think so, James. Yeah, I think it's quite clear. Yeah.
I'm sure there are facts here that we could verify after the meeting if we needed to.
So we've had an interesting past few weeks, to put it mildly. Obviously, there's been the usual raft of approval of no stopping restrictions on a number of roads, etc. I want to bring down to the second point there, approval for the installation of a new pedestrian island and no stopping restrictions in New Brighton Road. Ordinarily, that wouldn't be something of much interest, but one of the new footbridges across the Avon River is going to sort of end and then have a path going to New Brighton Road, so that's why that's been set up. So it just shows a little bit of the progress along there. We've allocated funding, obviously, through our DRF to a number of organisations recently. Another interesting, out of the ordinary situation is the revocation of an original decision, a previous decision around a bus stop. It came to the board, the residents who were going to speak to it were unable to come due to a family emergency, so we passed the resolution to have this bus stop come into being, but then in the meantime the group contacted us and said, look, we really did want to come and speak, we had an emergency, can we come back? So we allowed them to come back. They spoke to their concerns, which was essentially around the bus stop being used so little, sort of 3 or 4 minutes in a 24-hour period. We thought it was a reasonable thing to leave the bus stop as it was with no yellow lines, and essentially put a stop on the work. Unfortunately, the contractor didn't get the message, even though our staff passed it on, and those yellow lines went down. So we revoked that initial decision, and the yellow lines were taken out. And I think I'd really like to thank staff publicly for that. They were very patient with us because we made the original decision and then went back on it. But we got the best outcome for the residents, and they really appreciated that. So I think it was a sensible situation. Another interesting situation again was the Christchurch Archery Club wanted to renew their lease in Rafeti Domain. They've been there for quite some time, and before that, Burwood Park. Initially, we were all in our sort of preamble talk in favour of it. However, after the hearings committee met and decided unanimously that that should not be allowed but approved, we decided to follow through with that. There was a little bit of angst, I guess, in the media about that, but the situation is that the archery club were going to build a big new building in a public park, and I think that the local residents were not supportive of taking down trees to allow it to happen. It was an interesting decision for us. Nobody wants to see the archery club go, and in fact they're not going. They can stick around. They've got a month-by-month lease, which we assume can go on ad nauseum, to give them time to look for another more suitable place, and we've been looking at areas for that too. Moving on to the next slide, you'll see this is Te Tira Ka Hiku Hiku, which is the Red Zones Land Transformation Group. We have two members on this board, and very pleased to have Joe Zervos and BB Fraley. We asked for an extra person because most of the red zone is in our area, so really appreciate that from council. Moving on to the next slide. So finally, our wonderful clock tower in New Brighton is restored and actually keeping time now, which is exciting for the locals. So yeah, we really appreciate the work that's gone on there. And next slide, please. And of course, the great success in the Coastal and Burwood wards of late has been He Puna Taimawana. So the hot pools have been absolutely fantastic. I think it's 8 weeks since they've been open. They've been fully subscribed almost every session. They have 4 sessions a day, an hour 45 each, with a sort of 15 minutes for a swap over. We've been really fortunate because of COVID in that it's allowed the locals to use the facilities. I'm sure if there had been a lot of tourists around, it would have made it harder for the locals, but it's people who have come from all over the place, including a couple who came from Timaru, didn't realise that there was a booking system. Can I have a little show of hands for people who've actually been to the hot pools yet? So Sarah, James, I know, Phil.
I haven't been in it, but I've been to it.
So I would like to personally invite you all to come over to New Brighton and to try the hot pools. They're absolutely fantastic. I think you'll be blown away. You'll appreciate the investment that the council has put in over the years. And while you're there, have a wee walk around and have a look at the playground and how good it all looks with the streetscaping that's been done. The council's invested heavily. We're very grateful, and there's a lot of good things happening there. And with the new resolutions that have been passed recently around the regeneration of the commercial core, I think we're going to see some real change in New Brighton over the next wee while. And of course the government's announced funding for a number of projects that were on the go, so very positive. I guess last but not least is our community board plan. One of the things that I would like to highlight is one of our first priorities was to make our place appealing and attractive for all. Our thinking is like people feel good about the place that they live in if it looks good, if it's tidy. And so we've been taking the lead on this as a community board. We've been going out and doing a bit of weed eating in safe areas. We've been on rubbish pickups. Just the community board, just the 5 or 6 of us, whoever can make it. It's been good sort of bonding for our board, and we feel like it's a good example to the community that if it's good enough for us to go and pick up rubbish and tidy up bits and pieces, safely of course, that it's good enough for everybody else. We've had good fellowship and good times doing that, and it's been very positive for us. We've been to also a number of plantings. Someone is always at one of the local plantings. That's also been a really positive thing. The other thing I'd like to highlight is the road and transportation links is one of our other priorities. Obviously there's been a lot of talk about the flooding on Pages Road. I don't really want to give that a lot more oxygen than it's already had. But coming into places, as you drive into a place like New Brighton, it's good if the place looks good and the roads are up to scratch. And I guess those are the things that we really want to focus on in the future to make people feel good about the area they live in. And then just some of our other priorities, undertaking planning for a new community-led facility in Burwood Ward. That is accelerating incredibly quickly. It couldn't be more fortuitous timing for us. So there's work going on there. The other thing, probably the most used facility in the whole of the east is Taiaroa QE 2. There's when money is available, there's a couple of little tweaks that we would like to see, disabled toilets and a couple of other little things that we understand that, that in the current financial situation that we need to be understanding about when those things might occur. Yeah, so all in all, that's about it for me. Any questions if there's time?
That's great. Thank you very much indeed. Moving to questions. So Tim and then Aaron. Tim.
Thanks, Kelly. I'm just thinking it's probably more a question for staff, because when we looked at and back the hot pools, it was about tourism as well as the local community, which is a balance. We've got COVID-19, but local tourism with regards, you mentioned Timaru, but the rest of Christchurch. So in that booking system, we must be able to track where they are coming from, whether it's Pepanui or whatever it is, and can we relate that to if there is and shows an increase to the foot traffic in the mall in any way, shape? And I know that the mall has been a work in progress and a very, very long journey, but I think that would be very important for us to note that, because one of the key things for the hot pools was its tourist element to boost the local economy. And we do need to keep that a reality there as well. So I'll just bring that up.
Yeah, no, I think that would be a really good thing if we could actually track where people were coming from. I guess it's just one question. It's the sort of thing that we could have a chat to Merrin about, who runs the pools.
Well, we've got to remember as council, the focus of why we do things and some of the reasons for it, and follow those up. Because if we don't, then it's pointless doing it, and we've lost our way.
So I'm going to ask you all again if you've if you've come to the pools next time. So don't let me down. Come to the pools, have a look for yourselves.
I prefer the beach.
All right. Now, unfortunately, that does leave us out of time for further questions. But Kelly, thanks very much indeed for the presentation and for the call to action on visiting those hot pools. So I need a mover for this one. Phil will move. James will second. All those in favour say aye. Against, that's carried. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
And then